Hey everybody, it's Lisa with Undermined Propaganda, watching some Sunday shows and torturing myself today. But there is a clip I found very interesting on CNN today. Jake Tapper, the rabid Zionist, had Elise Stefanik, the more rabid Zionist, on to talk about her new book, because apparently, considering she failed at trying to be the governor of New York, she is now writing books about how to combat anti-Semitism, aka, in her opinion, any criticism of Israel or Zionists, and how to end those at the prestigious universities by pretty much ending any criticism of Israel and ending Middle Eastern studies courses and those types of things. Anyways, I digress. Rarely, though, do you see Jake Tapper do something actually good. And in this clip, he perfectly sets up Elise Stefanik by asking her, saying, you were against the anti-Semitic phrase from the river to the sea, which they never say the rest of that phrase, from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, is not a call for genocide against Israel. Anybody that you ask that is Palestinian or is a Jewish person that is for Palestinian rights says this is not a genocidal statement. Anyway, he sets her up by saying, you called out the students on campus a few years ago for saying the genocidal statement from the river to the sea. So how do you feel about Trump's statement on ending Iranian civilization, which is clearly a genocidal statement? And I tell you what, she twists herself into pretzels beyond belief, pretzels. Twists and twists and twists into pretzels, and just comes across just completely ridiculous. Anyway, if you're watching me, you probably feel somewhat about mainstream media that I do. That it's just, I do it, like I said, to torture myself. And if you're watching a Generation X old lady like me on a Sunday afternoon vent and talk about this, then I love you and appreciate you. And that being said, let's go ahead and just dive into this actually humorous video on CNN here. Okay, let's watch and see how he sets her up completely with the way he frames this question.
Of anti-Semitic elected officials who have refused to condemn anti-Semitism, whether you look at the mayor of New York City or whether you look at some of these primary races on the Democratic side. That is not the case on the Republican side. And again, this book, which is being read not just by Republicans, Jake, but Democrats as well, it was a reckoning on those college campuses that it needed to happen to fix these higher education institutions.
You were praised by many in the Jewish community when you criticized the college presidents who refused to condemn students for chanting from the river to the sea, which many Jews interpret to be, and you agreed, you characterized as genocide, a call for genocide, to wipe out all the Jews in Israel from the river to the sea. So just to be clear, you believe that wiping out an entire civilization is genocidal and nobody should make a call to do such a thing?
Yes, of course, and that's why the question I asked, which was, does calling for the genocide of Jews violate your university's code of conduct, yes or no? I worded it because it was a very simple, straightforward question. It was not a political one, and the world heard as these universities equivocated, saying it depends on the context or it's a context-dependent decision. It is not, and we have seen that they didn't think there was anything wrong with those answers. That's why there were a billion views of that testimony, and it created an earthquake in higher education. And importantly, these schools are now having to reckon with this. That's why earlier in the show, when you pointed out the Yale report, that is a step in the right direction, is starting to address internal issues, but let's see if there's action taken on these university campuses, because we've had to take very specific steps from the Department of Education and from Congress to hold them accountable.
What did you think when President Trump threatened to obliterate the entire Iranian civilization?
He was focusing on the Iranian regime, and what did it do? It brought the...
Okay, let's just stop right there. She just completely... First of all, it's just really annoying when they say from the river to the sea, and one, they don't even put the whole phrase in there, and they do that intentionally. But from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Not from the river to the sea, Israel will be genocided. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. But let's go ahead really quick and take a look at the tweet that he is referring to here. Okay, let me see. Pull it up real quick here. I'm sure, anybody that's watching this, I'm sure has seen it. But anyway, we'll just go ahead and read it again. A whole civilization will die tonight. a whole civilization, never to be brought back again. I don't want that to happen, but it probably will. However, now that we have complete and total regime change, ridiculous, where different, smarter, and less radicalized minds prevail, maybe something revolutionarily wonderful can happen. Who knows? We will find out tonight. One of the most important moments in the long and complex history of the world, 47 years of extortion, corruption, and death, will finally end. God bless the great people of Iran. Let's focus on a whole civilization will die tonight, never to be brought back again. But yet, she says, from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, should be punished, kids should be expelled, people should be deported for it. But this, to Elise Stefanik, she will argue, was not a genocidal statement. So let's go ahead and continue with the clip here on CNN. Give me 1 second. Go ahead and see what the Zionist fanatic, wrong one. The Zionist fanatic has to say. All right, here we go.
The Iranians to the table. It led to the ceasefire. We know that President Trump has very strong statements when it comes to his tweets, but it has been targeted towards the Iranian terrorist regime. And it's very important to note that he was focused on the Iranian terrorist regime. And Jake, isn't it true that it brought the Iranians to the table to a ceasefire agreement? It did, because they had a ceasefire agreement going on for days. And President Trump is correct to call out the Iranian terrorist regime, which has financed Hamas and Hezbollah, which I believe has led to some of the financing of the skyrocketing anti-Semitism. But that's, Jake, you can ask this question, but the reality is it was targeted towards the Iranian terrorist regime. It was an effective tool to bring them to the table.
This tweet specifically says the civilization. It does not say regime, and you'll notice the terrorist qualifier that she says before she ever uses the word Iranian. It's all she knows how to say. This woman is completely ridiculous.
They have no cards, and frankly, we're not going to see peace in the Middle East until we get rid of the Iranian terrorist regime.
Quote, your whole civilization will die tonight. He didn't say the regime will be wiped out. He said your whole civilization will die tonight. And I just have to say, it's interesting that a 20-year-old college kid on a campus yelling from the river to the sea, that's worthy of condemnation. But a president of the United States who actually
You don't think it's worthy of condemnation? You don't think it's worthy of condemnation of students that are targeting Jewish students, that are physically assaulting them, that are spitting in their face, that are drawing...
Okay, she just spins and spins. And Jake Tapper is a Zionist. I mean, through and through, he has defended what Israel has done in Gaza. He completely disputes the fact that it's a genocide, that so many human rights organizations have come out and said that it is. He is, through and through a Zionist. And even for him, this is too much. That tells you just how off, how off a rocker Elise Stefanik is. I don't know what she's trying to get, but she didn't get governor. She didn't get any appointments by Trump that she wanted. So I'm not quite sure. She's just, this woman's a monster. Let's just be real about it.
I don't need a lesson.
Have to hire security.
And by the way, too, this Jewish students being attacked, and in her mind, what she means is Zionist, and being spit upon and all that. There was nothing reported out like that. When those encampments were going on a few years back, those pro-Palestinian activists, many of whom were Jewish, their heads were beaten by the cops. And Zionists would come on campus and beat the crap out of these students, and then the cops would defend these Zionists. So everything she's saying is just an inverse of what happens and what happened, which is just so common. But she's just so blatant about it that it's just, it's amazing.
You're equivocating like those university presidents.
No, I'm not equivocating at all.
I'm not equivocating with those university presidents.
I'm
what I
asking
said about
if you're
President Trump's tweets is it has been very targeted.
No,
I'm not equivocating. I have been crystal clear
not when it comes to college kids, but when it comes to a president threatening to wipe out an entire civilization. I'm saying you're playing different standards here.
The Iranian terrorist regime. Everyone seems to understand that, Jake, except for CNN. And what did it do? It brought the Iranians to the table, delivering a ceasefire, and frankly, bringing this terrorist regime to its knees. It has been very important for us to address, frankly, this conflict that has been going on for decades. The terrorist regime that has not only hijacked the Strait of Hormuz, but has been the #1 state sponsor of terror.
I'm not supporting the regime.
Yes, the president delivers tough diplomacy, but what he has delivered is ultimately we will see peace in the Middle East better off.
I just think a call for genocide on college campus and a call for genocide made by the president of the United States, they're both bad.
Okay, Jake, there wasn't a call for genocide on college campus. Lie. But your Zionist colors do have to come through. It wouldn't be a segment with you without you doing that.
Right? I mean, that's what I think.
I condemn genocide across the board. The difference with those university presidents is they couldn't answer the simple, direct question, just calling for the genocide of Jews. President Trump didn't call for genocide, Jake. You are putting those words in his mouth. He is engaging in diplomatic back and
Your
forth.
entire civilization will die.
And we should... No.
The words were specifically in his tweet. Come on, Elise. You're a Harvard-trained lawyer. I mean, you can't come up with something better? I mean... I'm no genius, and I mean, you look absolutely ridiculous. Come on.
It's the terrorist regime, Jake. He's targeting the terrorist regime. You can continue the decades-long... but you're adding genocide. That's not what he's
What is wiping out an entire civilization?
In the case of university presidents, I specifically asked them about calling for the genocide of Jews. Again, the president is correct to call out the Iranian terrorist regime, to bring them to the table, to force a ceasefire, and frankly, to free the Middle East from this largest state sponsor of terror that has not only killed American lives, but has targeted Israel and the United States of America, including assassination.
They targeted America. We killed their entire, us and our greatest ally that you love so much, Israel, killed the entire negotiating team when we were in the middle of negotiating a ceasefire, negotiating a way to not be in this war that we're in right now. Crazy.
Our elected officials
is calling for wiping out a civilization. Is calling for wiping out an entire civilization.
The Iranian terrorist regime.
But that's not what he said.
Of course, it's that. That is not what he is calling for. He wasn't calling for genocide.
Your entire civilization
it was targeted towards the Iranian terrorist regime. It was targeted
Agree to
towards the
disagree.
Iranian terrorist regime.
Agree to disagree.
This is typical CNN.
Okay.
If you want to compare the President of the United States to the university presidents who failed to call for the condemnation of calling for the genocide of Jews, that's on you, Jake. The world saw how morally equivocating those university presidents were. Yes, you're the one that is. It's not a comparison. So if you want to make that comparison, that's on CNN. That is not the comparison. Of course, genocide is bad across the board, Jake. President Trump effectively brought the Iranians to the table. He effectively delivered a ceasefire, and he's going to effectively deliver peace to the Middle East to stop, frankly, the killing of the Iranian terrorist regime, which kills their own people and has created havoc across the Middle East.
We have people who...
Just to add a little side note in there, it was a week and a half ago, maybe, very recently, that Trump literally called into Fox News, admitted that we sent weapons into Iran to try to topple their regime. Were protests legit? Sure. Their economy is, people are suffering. And one of the biggest reasons for that, again, is us, with the sanctions we've had on them for 47 years that have gotten worse and worse. But we literally armed and funded some of those violent protests to try to topple Iran. But you're not going to hear that here, even though Trump literally called into Fox News and said exactly that.
Who actually supported the strikes against Iran, Iranian Americans and Iranian advocates, on the show all the time, and they all were horrified when President Trump called for a genocide of the Iranians, to quote-unquote wipe out your entire...
Okay, there's an argument that I'm crazy. But that being said, she gets the craziest, most inappropriate smirk on her face. I mean, my God. I mean, who told her to do this? Is there a mirror? Is there somebody there to tell her to look somewhat human, or no?
He's not calling for genocide of the Iranians. It's targeted towards the Iranian terrorist regime. It's been consistent throughout, Jake. And again, that has brought the Iranians to the table. And let's talk about the Iranians have killed tens of thousands of their own people. So if you want to prop up the Iranian terrorist regime, that's on you. The president has been very effective in calling out the Iranian terrorist regime. Go ahead.
No, I'm not defending anything. I'm not defending anything. I'm saying it's all bad, calling for genocide, calling for wiping out civilizations, whether it's some knucklehead on a college campus or Mahmoud Khalil or this person or that person or President Trump.
Mahmoud Khalil never called for genocide. Stop. The kids on the young adults on college campuses did not call for genocide. Mahmoud Khalil was literally put in a position to negotiate because he was against any kind of violence. I mean, and I believe the poor gentleman actually lost another court case because they're trying to deport him. Why? Because he's anti-Zionist and he supports Palestine. He supports human rights. So we're trying to deport him because, God forbid, anybody is in favor of human rights here in the United States. Those people got to go.
All of it's bad. Congresswoman Elise Stefanik, thank you so much.
President Trump was not calling for genocide. Shame on CNN for saying that.
I read the quote. Thank you so much.
Jeez, oh man. Okay, that was
Welcome back.
That was I guess I have to just because he's never, ever any good on these issues, I have to give some kudos to Jake Tapper, as much as I dislike him, just because he has totally set her up and showed her true colors, which she's shown her true colors many times. But I just thought that was a really good clip. Something to make you smile on a Sunday afternoon. All right, this is a shorter one today, a little shorter clip, but I just wanted to get that out. And thank you to anybody who's watching. Please subscribe if you found anything of value. Like, share, comment, whatever the urge is. Greatly appreciate any kind of interaction. And I hope for you all to find some peace in your Sunday. And I will talk to you soon. Thanks a lot, guys. Bye.